Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and feeling great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far. Here to break down the latest on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Thursday. We'll speak on a couple things. A little broad area spin off the coast of the southeast has got some people's attention. Could bring some much-needed rain. In fact, it most likely will across areas of, it already is Florida this morning. It will throughout the next 24 hours in Florida, but especially the eastern Carolinas, all the way up into the Delmarva area, could get some much needed rain over the next 48 hours. So we'll speak on that. We'll talk about today's weather, and then we'll kind of have a separate segment on what it looks like as we get into tomorrow for our Saturday for this little spin off the coast of the southeast that does have a very, very, very small chance to develop into a tropical system. But we will speak on that, break that down for you folks. But we'll break down the rest of the lower 48 also. We're finally done talking about barrels. Thank goodness. We've been talking about it for like 2 weeks. I was talking to my buddy this morning that I work out with in the morning. And of course, he's not really into weather or anything like that. But he's like, Mitch, I've been hearing about barrel bringing impacts that's been affecting the weather throughout the U.S. all week. Is that true? I was like, yeah, man, it's been bringing tornadoes. He's like, dude, you've been talking about that for 2 weeks, haven't you? I was like, yeah, it's been about 2 weeks. So, it's wild how long we were talking about barrel. Just one of those long-lasting, very impactful systems, but we are finally done with it. It is still bringing a little rain up there in the northeast, and we will have some shower and storm activity, more so driven off a trough up in the northeast today that we'll speak on. Then we'll talk about everybody else. And also have a little segment breaking down a very stormy pattern setting up for areas of the upper portion of the country, like the upper Midwest, maybe the Midwest, the Great Lakes region. We'll talk about what's driving that towards the end of the video. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please, please, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it. And many others have an opportunity to pray over it also. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So we're taking a look at radar. We do have tropical moisture kind of meandering around across the peninsula of Florida, a lot of it off the coast of eastern Florida. And this is our little disturbance, and I think they have a recon mission going out to this sometime, I think tomorrow, maybe today. Forgive me for not knowing. Just to kind of invest this system, see if it has a legit little spin to it. But that's something that we are going to be watching off the coast of the southeast over the next 24 to 48 hours. Eventually, all this energy that you see here is going to push into the Carolinas, eastern Virginia, and then into the Delmarva region. Got to watch out Delaware, Maryland. Just will bring much needed rain. No tropical storm or hurricane is going to develop out of this. You can't completely rule out a depression or a weak tropical storm, but it is a very, very low chance of it. So we are watching this rain and shower storm activity off the coast of the southeast and Florida. And then we still have a lot of moisture lingering around across the northeast. You guys let me know what you ended up seeing up there. There was reports of tornadoes like crazy across New York, PA yesterday. There was some structures of some of these storms that look like some you would see out of the middle of the country. So it was a wild day, very active day. Once again, day 3, I would say the tornado threat certainly ended up unfolding. It certainly met the expectations of what was expected. So I hope you guys are okay. We have lingering flash flood warnings up here in the upstate of New York and northern Vermont right now. So I hope you guys are okay. We do have some more moisture and storms that we're going to expect later on today if you're not already seeing it this morning. A little area of energy right here in southern Wisconsin, more so northern Illinois, a little bit of energy in Kansas. And we do have some energy kind of rounding the top of this ridge up in Canada that could bring a threat of strong to severe storms across the northern high plains. But that's what's going on right now. As far as watches, warnings, and advisories, pivotal weather is still acting kind of weird, so I can't show you the display map for the watches, warnings, advisories on that I like to show you. A little bit more broad resolution on it's a little bit better, so we'll just kind of show you the traditional look from the National Weather Service. And in this purple color, these are excessive heat warnings. The orange, heat advisories. Got some excessive heat watches in southwestern Nebraska. Got some fog out there in these areas where you see the dark gray. Lingering flood watches, some flash flood warnings up here in the northeast. Even a couple of heat advisories down here in like southeastern New Hampshire and areas of Mass. And then we do have those heat advisories in areas of Texas where we are certainly recovering from the impacts of Beryl. We have There's a lot of people still out without power. That's a big storyline that's not being talked about as much unless you live in Texas. These heat advisories in place, awfully humid, very hot, like it is normally this time of the year. You mix that with the fact that we had these power outages. People's ACs ain't running. So it's pretty rough down here. We're praying for you folks and continue to pray for y'all, and we all are. So definitely hope that things recover quickly here in the coming days and weeks here. So the excessive rainfall outlook, just a couple marginal risk areas, but you notice right here in eastern North Carolina, just about very small corner of southeastern VA, we have a slight risk, at least a 15% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance. So some of these storms today will kind of form and they won't have much forward or backward motion to them. So they kind of form in eastern North Carolina today, and they won't move much. They could dump 1 to 2, maybe as much as 3 inches of rain on you guys in a very short amount of time. We're about to talk about that too here in a second. So be aware of that. You need the rain, but of course you don't want 3 inches of rain in 30 minutes. That's definitely going to cause a lot of runoff. But as far as the Storm Prediction Center update, general risk of thunderstorms in the light green. Dark green, level 1 out of 5, marginal risk across the high plains, including areas, like I said, of the northern high plains, including areas in Nebraska, the Dakotas, all the way down to western Nebraska. I meant to say eastern Montana, eastern Wyoming, all the way to the northeast corner of Colorado. But we do have a slight risk in southern Arizona today. Today could kind of be one of those days where we get some of those dust storms, sandstorms, haboobs, where you get some mean storms that fire up. They pop off an outflow. That outflow expands outward from the storm, picks up all that sand, dust, and then you get those crazy haboobs that you get a couple times a year out here. So I think today could certainly be one of those days. Be aware in Tucson, Arizona even, but especially down to Tucson, southern sections of Arizona. This is mainly driven off wind. In fact, that's the only thing I'll show you here. 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. We will zoom into Arizona here in a second. So the southeast today, kind of a broad look at things. There's that, you can see a little broad spin off the coast of the southeast, but we get into about early to mid-afternoon. There are those, can't talk, showers and storms in eastern North Carolina, getting into Virginia Beach, the Norfolk area. They could get all the way to Richmond, Virginia. Got some action sneaking into the Delmarva, the mid-Atlantic. And notice how they don't move much, and we'll kind of zoom into this here in a second, but you see how they just kind of don't move for a couple hours. It's almost like there's no push in the atmosphere to really get this going. Little weak low in place. We get into this evening, into the overnight hours, all the way into tomorrow morning. I think tomorrow morning will be a big day for widely scattered showers and storms across eastern North Carolina up into Virginia. Could be waking up to some big storms here in central VA. We really need to rain in southwestern VA, where some areas barely got any rain in June, if any at all. I'm hearing some areas didn't really get any rain. So that's just pretty wild to think about, especially in the summer. But a closer look at Florida today. Widespread showers and storms. There'll be a sharp cutoff. Like if you live in Gainesville points north, you might not get a whole lot of anything. You get south, down to Orlando points south, just scattered showers and storms, widespread all day today. We get into just after lunchtime. We get into this evening. Things will taper off as we get into the overnight hours. But, by the time waking up tomorrow morning, this run of the HRRR model saying we're going to have a pretty organized area of showers and storms south of Tampa through the Fort Myers area. Even some action showing up near Fort Lauderdale, down to Miami potentially. So be aware of that. I'll look at the blend of all models here. There's that sharp cutoff, right? Just seeing splotches of rain. But I'm telling you, it's like they're downplaying the rain here on the National Weather Service and the blend of all models. I really think more rain than this could fall today, especially on some of the latest HRRR model guidance. But, the Bahamas, if you're vacationing, a very rainy day, it's probably a rainy start to your morning. Be pretty rainy today, but Florida too, this moisture will pretty much ooze into Florida, throughout the day, pretty much throughout all the daytime hours. Anywhere from quarter inch of rain to an inch or two of rain, depending on your location in this area of Florida. So we head on up to the Carolinas. And, today won't be as widespread as tomorrow, but certainly, like I mentioned, this is around 3 p.m. These storms forming in the PD of South Carolina, maybe north of Conway. Some pop-up activity north of Summerville, Charleston area. The Norfolk area right into here, Virginia Beach, if we're vacationing. A lot of people are like, Mitch, I'm going to the beach this weekend in the Carolinas. This is going to ruin my vacation. Not necessarily, guys. I mean, we're in the summer. You rarely are going to get a day where it just rains all day in the summer. You're going to get little breaks. Don't cancel anything, I don't think. But I mean, tomorrow is definitely going to be a widespread day. But Saturday might be a big improvement. So today, check out how these storms kind of around the Raleigh area. Well, they're actually just east of Raleigh. Raleigh might not get really any rain at all today. There's a chance. But you get just east of Raleigh, east of Fayetteville. These storms kind of like set up shop and don't really move much. They could eventually drift into the Raleigh-Fayetteville area for sure. But mainly kind of east of Raleigh and Fayetteville, that's where your activity will be. And you see later this evening, some of this activity could sneak into the eastern Midlands of South Carolina. We got some activity here in southeast Virginia. This is, 10, 11 p.m. tonight. And this will continue to push in. I mean, it really won't stop into the overnight hours. Look at these shower and storm activity to the coastal regions of Maryland, getting into Delaware. And we wake up tomorrow morning and we're still dealing with it. And this really sets the stage for a very active day in this area. As far as severe weather, not expecting that. Just tropical rains. Heavy, heavy rain moving into the area. We're waking up tomorrow morning. Could be waking up to a lot of heavy rain in eastern North Carolina. Heavy activity in the central VA. Just dumping a lot of rain. Whoever's getting the rain will get a lot of it. And this is just between today and tomorrow. Like today into tomorrow morning, I should add. Stripe, and it makes sense. The 8-strip-R model showing this. Stripe of 2 to as much as 3 inches of rain potentially will be the case just north of Myrtle into Wilmington. Carolina Beach area, all the way throughout the eastern Carolinas. Maybe not as much along the immediate Outer Banks coastal region, but kind of just inland of the eastern North Carolina area. A couple inches of rain is possible. We need to rain here in this area. We're starting to get into I think the latest drought monitor has a lot of these areas into a moderate to severe drought right now. So we really need to put a dent in this pretty good. So a lot of rain up in the southeast Virginia, and we do kind of get a little bit further. Let's see, a little bit further north for you guys in the mid-Atlantic. Good bit of rain could fall, but more rain could likely fall tomorrow. But you see the Delmarva, the southern sections of the Delmarva, coastal regions of Maryland, southeast VA, even southern Delaware between now and tomorrow morning. An inch or two of rain is certainly likely in these areas. So the Northeast today, a quieter day for sure. Now we are going to have from upstate North Carolina, upstate New York through Vermont, New Hampshire into Maine, another day of some showers and storms. And these could hit severe limits. A little energy flying through behind barrel. But I don't expect anything too crazy like yesterday. Could have some more organized clusters of storms through Maine that you see right there. A little bit closer look at my friends here in Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont. And, we get to about 4 p.m. Look at these storms. I mean, maybe some rumbles of thunder up near Caribou. Definitely southwestern Maine. And just got to watch out for this more organized cluster of storms kind of north of the Augusta region, west of Bangor. As we're getting into about 5 p.m., kind of prime heating of the day, could have more of a strong to severe area of storms right in here, but they will lose some steam by the time we get into the overnight hours. So I don't think there's anything too crazy to worry about there. But moving to my friends here in the south central U.S., a quiet day. We could get some relief with some shower and storm activity along the coastal regions of Texas. With the cleanup and everything like this, you're probably hoping for it. But at the same time, of course, rain and storms is going to make you stop what you're doing with the cleanup. But, with the power trying to get restored in this area and these same areas where Beryl pretty much went right through south of Houston and the Galveston area, you are certainly going to have a shot at showers and storms a day, and most likely it will occur all the way down here to southern Texas, more organized showers and storms all throughout the entire coastal region and just inland of Texas. So very hot and humid before these storms fire. The storms will fire, cool things off maybe, but of course, it's kind of a win-lose situation. You win with the cool off, but you lose with the rain and stuff trying to clean up. So praying for you guys. But elsewhere, some pop-up activity in the Boot Hill, Missouri. Just southern Missouri in general could see some pop-up showers and storms. but very, very isolated, low chance here. And then the same story pretty much every day in southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi. Some storms could fire, cluster up, dump some heavy rain, but nothing severe or anything expected. Maybe some downpours overnight from St. Louis to Kansas City. Very possible. A little energy kind of rides the eastern side of this ridge in the west. It could dip down into western sections of Nebraska, northwestern areas of Kansas later tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow morning, we could be dealing with just some scattered activity across Missouri, but nothing too widespread anywhere in this area. North central U.S., the only thing we'll watch for is just a lingering boundary here in northern Illinois. We could get some showers and storms in just the northern sections of Illinois, but really, I mean, that's about the only thing out here. Very pop-up in nature activity across Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. I mean, 95% of these areas, these states will not get a drop of rain. Whoever does, could cool you off, could give you half an inch of rain. But not a whole lot driving this energy in the atmosphere. And then we got some lingering energy from the potential severe weather threat out here in the northern plains that could drift east throughout the Dakotas. And then, like I said, western Nebraska. And then could wake up tomorrow morning to a little bit of activity in northern Indiana or just the northern half of Indiana. So all in all, very quiet weather day in the north central U.S. pretty much. Western U.S., everybody's pretty much quiet too out here. Little activity rounding the upper portion of this ridge in Montana. There is a marginal risk of severe weather in these areas, but it's not a very widespread event today. Whoever gets some storms in maybe western North Dakota, eastern Wyoming, the eastern half of Montana, western Nebraska, they could be intense, just be aware. But as you can tell, not very widespread up here at all. What I am watching later today is down here in southern Arizona. We're going to zoom into this. Phoenix here, Tucson down here, Flagstaff up here, just kind of giving you guys an idea where we're at here. This is around 1-2 p.m. Showers and storms will fire in western New Mexico, areas of eastern Arizona. Look at these more intense storms well. Southeast of Tucson. These could cluster up, and I'm telling you, damaging winds, the biggest threat with this little embedded energy here in the kind of the southern portion of this ridge, kind of rounding, kind of like a nice little anticyclonic flow around this ridge. So this energy would kind of form and most likely drift in from the northeast to the southwest in this case, as you guys are sitting underneath this ridge, the bottom portion of it. So, any of these storms that fire today, I know they're kind of scattered about. Damaging winds will be the biggest threat. And look how they really fire up around like 7 to 8 p.m. tonight south of Tucson. So, you see these reds and stuff. This could certainly produce some damaging winds. Watch for the clustering of these storms as they kind of move out of southern Arizona into northern sections of Mexico. So be aware of that. Temperatures today, not too crazy one way or the other. Of course, we're going to deal with your traditional summer type heat. It is midsummer. So some people will still call it early summer, but I'm going to call it midsummer because it makes me feel like I'm closer to fall. But the Midwest, a nice summer day. I mean, 70s and widespread 80s. The Northeast, this is why you could probably have a risk of severe weather today. You might get bumped up to a marginal risk in areas of the Northeast because you do have some heating building up to the southern flank of those storms I showed you in the Northeast. Certain areas, have heat advisories. So 80s and 90s for highs. If you're kind of in southern New England, you get up into the higher elevations of New England, maybe just 60s for highs. Southeast, traditional like heat, hot, humid, 90s. And then the southern plains, pretty hot, 90s, 100s. Now, this definitely is above average up here in the northern plains. 90s, maybe even some low 100s before some energy pops off. And just brutally hot before any. Now, this heat down here will have a little bit more of a kick to it today because there is a little bit of moisture in the atmosphere. So, these you're not going to be dealing with as much as of a dry heat today in this area. I mean, you're going to feel a little juice in the air most likely, and that's what's going to help aid in the firing of these storms in southern Arizona. More so dry heat across the valley of California, but brutally hot. Forget the old dry, the moist heat or whatever. I mean, this is 110 is 110, man. So that's brutal. So, yeah, hope that relentless heat kind of wears off eventually for you folks. But update on the tropics, guys. And, this might get bumped up to a 20%. This is the information I have right now. I dropped a video yesterday and like 10 minutes later, they dubbed this an area of interest. But we do have a 10% risk of tropical development from a little broad spin of like a trough of low pressure off the coast of the southeast. It could develop somewhere in this region, and then regardless, it is going to drift into the Carolinas. So a 10% risk of development here in this area off the coast of the southeast. And if you kind of look at this, ignore this spin right here. This is more of just kind of an upper level spin. It looks like, your eyes are probably going to go immediately to this, like this is the system. It's really this right here. This right into here. We got big time mid-level convection here popping off. This is what's going to deliver a very stormy day across Florida today. We're going to get some convection that's already firing off here. You can see where the colors explode with the colder cloud tops indicated by those reds and blacks. So this is eventually going to kind of just get pushed into this. But what we watch for as they investigate this over the next 24 to 48 hours is for some sort of, let's see if they can find some sort of like low-level broad spin underneath all this convection. And more importantly, can this convection continue to fire? If they do, then they might bump up the percent of this developing right at the last second. And guys, we've seen sneakier things happen. I wouldn't be surprised as right before this kind of comes on shore, whatever it is, if we have some gnarly radar visibility on this, on what this looks like. So we will watch this. I think it's worth watching. This is chilling over some pretty warm waters of the Gulf Stream off the coast of the southeast. Temperatures well into the 80s. So we'll start off where we left off for tomorrow morning. So waking up to all that shower and storm activity. And then we start to make our way throughout the day tomorrow. This is like lunchtime, 1 p.m. Widely scattered showers and storms. I live in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm really hoping some of this can inch my way. But if not, it's all good. But eastern South Carolina, and especially eastern North Carolina, the eastern half of North Carolina, I should say, and a good chunk of Virginia up into the Delmarva, just widespread tropical moisture tomorrow, and just a relentless just feed of moisture coming into this area. You're gonna at some point be like, man, I really wish the rain will stop, because I definitely think just consistent widespread rains across these areas. Like I said, some of this will sneak to Columbia, to Charlotte, maybe to Augusta, but not as widespread there. But we certainly have an opportunity for it there. But tomorrow evening, if you got any evening activities along the coastal regions of North Carolina, Virginia, all the way up to Delaware, it might be kind of one of those evenings where, you can't go play putt-putt or, any outdoor activities. You're going to kind of have to do some inside activities. Definitely a rainy start to your weekend. But we'll have to see how this evolves as we are getting into our Saturday. This only goes out to the middle of the night tomorrow night. But if we kind of compare this to the NAM and extend this a little bit further out, we're getting into tomorrow. And it's still going to be probably a stormy afternoon for the eastern Carolinas. I would say eastern North Carolina and then Virginia up to the Delmarva, but probably not as widespread as tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the big day. But rainfall between, like I say, now and tomorrow morning, we've already showed you this, but watch how it increases as we extend this further. We'll take it all the way out to about Saturday evening. Between now and Saturday evening, much needed rain has the opportunity to fall across even areas of eastern South Carolina, but especially the eastern half of North Carolina. There's a sharp cutoff, though. Sharp cutoff in this where you guys won't get anything once you get to Atlanta, maybe the Greenville, Spartanburg area. But through the Delmarva, and extending this all the way up into kind of areas of the mid-Atlantic, there's a sharp cutoff up here, too. And this does not extend out as far as I want it. Let's actually extend this out to the same amount of time. So yeah, you guys will get a good bit of rain up here too. In fact, let's just look at the mid-Atlantic. There we go. So all this rain will eventually get up into southern New England, as you can tell. So this moisture is really pretty much an I-95 hugger here. 1 to 2 inches of rain is possible, even all the way up into like New Jersey, southern New England. New York City will get some rain off this. DC will get a little bit of rain, but this is mainly a big-time eastern North Carolina, eastern Virginia, Delmarva hitter here for sure. So much needed rain coming for you guys, so just be aware of that. Now, last thing we'll speak on is severe weather to come. We're going to skip right to Saturday. We're going to skip right over Friday. big slight risk over areas of the upper Midwest. So, we had a quieter period over the last couple weeks up here, and we were able to put our attention on Beryl for the most part. But it looks like we're going to enter a pretty active period where a ridge is built over the western U.S. and energy from the northwest is surging in the upper portion of this ridge. I'll talk more on that here in a second. But a slight risk for Saturday, level 2 out of 5. We just know that there is a 15% risk of severe weather for Minot, Bismarck, Fargo, Aberdeen, Grand Forks, Minneapolis, down to La Crosse, Duluth. 15% risk of severe weather. I'm sure damaging winds is probably going to be the highest threat, but there's probably going to be a tornado risk with this too. And then, guys, we get into day 4. This is for our Sunday. This was highlighted yesterday. This has shifted a little bit further to the southeast, but still in some of the same similar areas. Minneapolis, La Crosse, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago. You guys, slight risk already at day 4. 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in a given location. And then we extend this into Monday, guys. Positioned a little bit further south. This is for Monday, July the 15th. Severe weather opportunity once again. Same thing, 15% chance. South of Minneapolis this time. La Crosse, Janesville, Chicago, down to Peoria, Des Moines. Day 5, 15% risk area. And I wouldn't be surprised this gets extended to day 6 too, but predictability is too low. So we don't know. This is probably going to be driven more so off wind. This is your typical northwest flow. And I'm going to try to explain this here. You see these purple, pink colors? This is flow in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere, kind of going like this. If you look at the wind barbs, the actual flag of the wind barb is pointing to the west. That means winds are coming out of the west and going east. Okay? So we got a flow that's rounding the upper portion of this ridge just like this. Tall ridge building into this region. Not as tall as it was, but it's more broad now. It was, at this point, over the last couple of days, it's been really spiking over the western states. Now it's kind of getting more broad, and we're starting to get impulses of energy that are now going to ride around different sides of the ridge and then the upper portion of the ridge and then surge just like this. So our first day that we look at is Saturday. And you always kind of look at what we call the right exit region of the jet. We got enough flow right in here. Okay, if you look right here, this is 30 to 40 knot mid-level flow, plenty of flow that will get these storms going in this region. And that's why they have introduced a risk of severe weather for Saturday, a more heightened risk for, pretty much these areas right in here. I'm sure that's not the exact area, but I'm just kind of drawing. There's just enough flow here. There's no flow down here because you just got a stagnant airflow and you're kind of embedded in the ridge. But you watch for moisture to feed into this flow. So moisture, which is a thermodynamic, okay? Higher humidity, higher dew points, higher temperatures. Moisture meets all the way up here, okay? And then this gets overlapped by a mid-level flow. That's your kinematics. So you overlap kinematics with thermodynamics, you get a severe weather threat and for a more highlight area. Now, the more the models kind of tune in, the more we can confine and increase or decrease these areas as far as their severe weather risk. But we're not going to show you all the thermodynamics or anything right now. I think this is the best way to look at it as far as kinematics. So we continue to keep this rolling here, and we go into our Sunday. Okay, pivotal weather. Come on, cooperate with me, man. Let's get it rolling. Awesome. Cheaper site, but man, it can be very finicky here. But as we're getting into Sunday morning, you see that flow is beginning to extend a lot more further down, further to the east and further to the southeast. So we take it to about the prime heating of the day. Sunday, there's a severe weather threat too, 15% risk in some of the same similar areas. But remember, it is shunted off a little bit to the southeast now. But once again, high pressure here, flow going this way, and you get a steady northwesternly flow going right over a pretty moist and hot air mass here in the upper Midwest. I mean, it is mid-July at this point. Okay, so most of your more elevated, higher end severe weather threats are pushed off to the north because your jet on average shifts to the north. So a steady mid-level flow rolling right over this area, warm moist air mass building into that, overlapping of conditions right into here. Okay, this is going to allow for severe weather. Now, if you're wondering, well, what about this area over here? Why aren't we getting severe weather? Well, you could. But we always look for that right exit region of this jet, kind of like where you go from no flow to enough flow. And that's going to be right here. And plus, this is over the Rockies, guys. I mean, we got higher elevations. We got drier air. In general, for the most part, we don't have as good thermodynamics to support severe weather. But you could. You could have severe weather in this area for sure. And in fact, you kind of look at Sunday again. And yeah, we're only at day 4, so we can't look at the bigger picture here. But I wouldn't be surprised, and this is for Sunday, and then this is for Sunday. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if we do at least have a general risk of thunderstorms in Montana, because you do got that flow up here, right? And then we extend this into Monday. I'm just going to click it up here to make this go a little bit better. Monday could be a bigger severe weather threat, and this is because we have a more enhanced flow. If you notice more of the pink colors right into here, okay, this is indicating a little bit more of a higher end flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. We're pushing 45 to 50 knots, maybe even higher at this point. So this is probably a more robust area of embedded energy kind of flowing down into this. And we have multiple little mid-level impulses in this upper level flow in the upper portion of this ridge. Okay, but if we have a more intense, like upper trough that dives down, introduces more of a stronger piece of energy, just an all-out surface low, this is going to allow for a more substantial severe weather threat. And I'm watching that for Monday. Okay, you see a little dip right in here, some sort of little weak upper trough digging down here. This could really get the flow going more across this area. Now up here, you probably got more dry air, cold fronts moved in. But down here on the southern flank of this is where you look. Southern and right, pretty much the southeast flanks of these mid-level flows, which is right into here. This is where you want to watch. This is where your best moisture will build up into, underlapping that flow in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. There's going to be some sort of cold front right into here, so that will make areas where you still see all this pink more dry and more stable. It's always hard to explain this when you kind of flip from talking about severe weather to talk about the tropics nonstop, and you have to go back to severe weather. You're kind of rusty, if you will. So hopefully I explained that in a way where you guys can understand. But what I always like to mention here is a lot of people might look at this and say, well, Mitch, this entire area in pink runs the risk of severe weather, wouldn't it? Well, what you don't realize is this is the jet, right? So there's an embedded boundary into here separating moist and unstable air with dry and more stable air. And that's in here somewhere. And that's always, a big factor in trying to forecasting severe weather. Where's that boundary at? Where is that embedded in this upper level flow right in here? And we're just not quite sure. But if you kind of get off this and you look back at this, and then we look at that, that would make sense. Severe weather threat for Monday, you compare that with this, it's really like in this area that I just circled. So that's telling us the boundary is probably going to be up into here somewhere, kind of the upper portion of Wisconsin, Minnesota, UP, and Michigan. So you guys will be more stable because dipping the jet here, there is a cold front right into here, separating that moist and dry air. Anyways, we'll continue to fine-tune this as we go. God bless all y'all. Thank y'all for the nice comments. I didn't get to read all of them from the video I did yesterday evening. I will definitely check them all out, but just some of the comments I was reading over. You guys are always really nice in those personal videos. I always really look forward to reading the comments after those because it just made me feel great. So I really appreciate y'all so much. You guys are a blessing. And you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow morning. God bless.